only and all by grace. We talk about grace. I talked about grace. I was a Lutheran pastor for almost 10 years before I began to taste what grace was. I probably already told you this story, but forgive me. It's so signature to me. Eugene Peterson says that every pastor needs to attend to Bible study, prayer, and spiritual direction. Well, I knew what the first two was, but I didn't know what that snipe called the spiritual director was. So I went looking for one. It took me 2 years to find one, and it turned out to be a Roman Catholic nun who, just not so much of a slouch, but that's it. Just sit there and look at me. Don't take your eyes off me, and I'm going to talk for 45 minutes. I'm going to tell you my troubles, my joys, my sorrows, my worries, my fears, all the stuff that I have. And the Roman Catholic nun is a pretty strange creature to me. She just sat there quietly, stared me in the eye, looked at me, and then she would ask me, so what were you feeling? I said, I'm a man, I don't feel. Then after,
not a ruler. Wrong answer.
Wrong answer, wrong kind of nun. And then once I could identify it was a feeling, she would say, did you pray about it? I said, no, I didn't pray about it, I'm talking to you. And then when I finally learned to pray about it, she would say, and what did God say? I said, I don't know, I can't hear him, that's why we were talking to you. But her patient listening to me, her patient acceptance of who I was, what you call good stuff, bad stuff, really taught me grace by her loving, listening example. And this idea of total unlimited forgiveness, on total unlimited love, total unmerited, undeserved love, we can talk about it, we can think we know it, but it really must become experiential. And this has actually been a true statement of me for a long time. Even before I became a pastor, I'd sit there and watch those people walk up. And watch those people walk up to communion. And I go, God, you love that person? Man, you're a better man than I. But the awareness that grace is there for everyone, and that's what the meal does. That's what communion does for us. It solidifies that in an experience. One of the teachings of the church is that this is the real presence of Jesus. We have some very confusing language about it because we want to say we're not Roman Catholics where it becomes the actual body and blood. We're not Baptists, which is just symbolic, and that's not being fair to either of those groups. But we say it's both and. It's still bread and wine, but as soon as they take it, it's body and blood. What was that?
I remember doing this with catechism last year. We just got down to just go with sort of.
Yeah.
Sort of.
But when I tell the kids, it's, and I've heard a guy last year saying, it was really made sense. God's annoying habit is that he's invisible. But with baptism and communion, you've got something visible, and so it actually is the presence, and there's times it becomes very holy and very powerful, times it's routine, but he is always present. This saint and sinner paradox is one of the gifts that we bring to the world, that we are simultaneously both. Simultaneously, and the Missouri Synod has it right. Language that is a bit over the top, but they have it right in that no matter, the way I describe it is, no matter how straight you think your life is, it always bends away from God. Now some people, but there is with all of us this desire to be in control, this desire to be God, to think we know it all, and that's just a part of who we are. And we receive forgiveness for that, and our nature is being changed. That has less pull on us, but it's always a part of us. And we can experience this in the course of a single day, where we can, out of the goodness of our heart, do this really tremendous act of love and charity and self-sacrifice, and then 2 hours later be this petulant, demanding kid that if our mother saw us, we get slapped upside the head. But that we're both at the same time. And the God's word, and what our world needs to hear this is, the world wants to put people into an either-or category. And you have to go even to the worst of the people. And you have to go to that. I mean, these people doing these horrendous shootings, for example. We want to say they're evil. There is no good in them, and we have to say, well, you may have to look really, 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 really hard, but and that desire for the either or is, we want to say both and that both and is a part of the paradox of what Lutheran theology is about, and is so hard, especially in American religion today, as well as our culture, to understand. All right. The angles, same angles, forgiveness, life, and salvation, are what come to us. I find forgiveness here in communion to be more of a specific nature. If it's baptism, it forgives my sin, then communion is where I receive forgiveness for sins, for the words that I said to my wife, for the bird that I flipped. I didn't actually. But to me, when I'm aware that this is the specific action, and that's why the sharing the peace is so important to me. And I'm going to go around and say, peace, and that's important. And reminding to me too that communion is such a tiny bit of food. I'm totally unaware of how any meal impacts my life and growth. But I surely know if I didn't eat, I would die. But a tiny bit of the presence of God reminds me that this is really a lifelong journey. The word marathon versus sprint and all that kind of imagery. And finally, it's that wholeness of salvation. Holy Word.